In this video, we're going to explore how to watermark an image using the Thumbnailator library, and also we're going to use GIMP to create a watermark. So watermark, the Thumbnailator wants a watermark that's PNG format, and also the good thing about PNG is it supports transparency. So I'm using GIMP, the GNU image manipulation program, which is open source, freely available. A nice alternative to Photoshop if you don't want to buy Photoshop. If you have Photoshop, that works great just as well. File new, and I want this to be, relatively modest. So width, we could make width maybe 200, height 100 is probably just about okay. I'm going to choose okay. You know what? On second thought, that feels a bit tall compared to the width, so I'm going to do that again. We'll do, let's do height. I think we're just going to need about 50 on that. And that should be adequate. Okay, we could probably make something a little bit longer as well. But what you see is we have a background here, and I'm going to turn off the background so we can see the transparency behind it. As a matter of fact, I might just delete the background. And now we have the checkerboard pattern, which indicates transparency. Now I'm going to say new layer, and for the new layer, I'm going to say transparency. Everything else is good. This is the layer that I'm going to put my text on top of. So I'm going to run over to my toolbox, grab the letter A here, which indicates some text, and I might just say something like copyright plantplaces.com. Now that's a bit, let me bump this up a bit so you can see it better. We'll bump it up to 800%. Oh, that's maybe a little too much. Let's go to 400. And like so. And a bit more cleanup. We see we're just about where we need to be. I'm going to drag this little box up and go in here, hit enter, and we see that that kind of makes it flush left. We could probably put a year in there if we want, copyright 2015 or whatever we want to do, something like that. We could probably also truncate a little bit, but I think we get the idea. As a matter of fact, what I might do is simply grab and move the entire, because it's going to be transparency anyway, move the entire nugget of text over here like so. Okay, so now I'm going to do a couple things. I'm going to do File Save to keep this in its native format, the GIMP format. And we will simply call this one, we will call, just a moment, we'll call it Watermark. XCF and save. That way I can come back and I can edit it in this native GIMP format. But I'm also going to do an export as. And with the export as, I'm going to choose the PNG format. Okay, and watermark PNG. And now I'm going to move it up to my virtual machine. Oh, I'm sorry, one more thing. We want to yeah, this is all fine. Okay, just want to make sure it wasn't going to change the background color. So we'll go ahead and choose export. As a matter of fact, what I might do is open this up and take a look at it. And I just open it up in Windows File, the Windows Photo Viewer, and okay, that's about right. Yeah, I could probably make it white or do some kind of trickiness with that, but that's enough for our example. Now I've added the watermark to my Eclipse project, and I'm going to go into the little Control M to get this in high definition. I'm going to go into the Save Photo method. Now this is interesting. We do want to save the photo first in high definition, and then we want to do the thumbnail. After the thumbnail, we want to add the watermark, because it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense to add the watermark and then resize the image to something very small. Now thumbnails, this is the Thumbnailator library, or access to the Thumbnailator library. I added this in a previous video, but getting access to this is as simple as adding a dependency to our POM file. This dependency right here. It just search on Thumbnailator. It is a project that is available on GitHub at the time of this recording. Very good documentation, very easy to use, very easy to understand. So in any case, let's remember that file here, I probably could name that something better, to be honest with you. Maybe full-size file or something like that. But file here represents the full-size file, and then thumbnail represents the smaller file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another process here. I'm going to say thumbnails. Now we're not actually going to resize it. It just so happens that thumbnails is the name of the class that's doing all this work. Thumbnails.of, and then we're going to pass in our file reference again. So that's our original file. And then we're going to say watermark. And we need to give it an image. Now if you notice, what it was looking for is a buffered image. You might remember when we had our file DAO save, we used something called image.io. And we're going to use our friend image.io again. So I'm going to say image.io.read. And what we do is we provide a file to this, and it reads it in as a buffered image. So here we're going to read in our watermark. So I'm going to say new file, and then we're going to give it our directory. Same directory we have up here, because remember we put the watermark right in this resources images directory. So the directory from up above, and then we're going to give it the watermark name, which I'm going to hard code because I just called it watermark.png, and that is the name of the watermark. I don't see any reason to change that anytime soon. So anyway, control 1 and assign to new local variable, and we'll go ahead and call this watermark. And enter to confirm. And now let's pass this in to our watermark method. And let's just save it on top of the existing location. So we'll say to file. And guess what? File. We still have that original file that we've created up here, which represents the original image. Now, one trick. The Thumbnailator really wants to resize our image. It won't let us proceed as we have it right now. So we need to do one thing. We either need to give it a size, height and width, or a scale. I'm going to cheat. I'm going to say scale 1, which means basically scale it 100% of its current size, which in other words keeps it at its current size. But the good news is that satisfies that requirement of the Thumbnailator wanting to resize. So let's go ahead and save this and then rebuild, and we'll see how things look. Now I've redeployed. I've also grabbed an image from Plant Places. This is in the redbud from the Queen's Botanical Garden in New York City. And we're going to try that one out. So date taken. I actually probably took this, gosh, I think I was in New York in April. We'll put about that. Okay, we'll say I took it. We'll choose the file here. So we're looking for Queen Spot. There we go. And open. And submit, and the debugger should be going. So sure enough, the debugger hits. Go into debug mode, and let's take a look. The things we already know still exist. It's still going to grab this input stream, save it to a file. Still going to create a thumbnail. After the thumbnail, it's going to reopen the original image, and it's going to apply that watermark, and then save to the database. Okay, so we have really 3 different things going on here, but let's take a look and see how our watermark looks. So I'm going to refresh images here, and this is probably it right here. Okay, that's it. Now, you have to look really closely, but it is right here. The watermark is there. Yikes, it's right in the middle, and it's fairly faint, but it definitely did work. The good news is we do have options here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it a little bit darker, and I'm also going to put it down to one of the corners. So I'm going to make an adjustment to the, I'm going to call an overloaded watermark method. I'm going to say positions, and then we'll say bottom right will be fine. I think that's good. Then our watermark transparency, and then I'm also going to give it kind of a darkness. So the darkness can go from 0.0f, which means completely transparent, to 1.0f, which means completely opaque. Let's make it, that really came across pretty light. So let me make it 0.9f, and let's try that. I've reloaded the application, and I'm selecting our Queen's Botanical Garden image. Boy, that one looks nice, doesn't it? Contributor, we'll go ahead and put my name for that. And submit. step over into the debugger. Shouldn't be any dramatic change, so I'm going to walk through this pretty quickly. We just want to make sure that we're getting that line 117 where it puts the position at the bottom right and 90% opacity. Okay, no exceptions, so it looks good. I'm going to go ahead and continue. Go back to Java EE mode where we can take a look at the image again. Okay, a little refresh. And let's see how it looks this time. Okay, new image. Okay, you see this one's a lot more obvious. You see it's in the lower right-hand corner. What we could probably do to make it stand out, if you remember what we did in GIMP, we had a layer. So this is our watermark image, and the nice thing about GIMP is that we have these layers that we can turn on and off like so. So what we could do is we could easily duplicate this layer, and in the duplication we could change the font color to white and maybe offset it just a little bit. Take the text and just kind of move it offset, kind of like what you used to see on the news back in the 80s when they would when graphics weren't so high tech, but they could use two colors, a bright color and a dark color, to show text across any background. So anyway, that's something we could do to make that stand out a little bit more regardless of the background color, but nonetheless, you see we are able to take this watermark, make a transparency, snap it on the picture, all as part of our Java program. In our next video, we are going to, in our next series of videos actually, we're going to take a look at how these are three different operations and potentially time-consuming operations. One is the read and the save. Next is the create the thumbnail. Next is the open the original image, change the image by adding a watermark, and then resave it. So these are three potentially time-consuming operations if we're dealing with large images or a large number of images. And this is where an enterprise integration pattern comes in handy. Something like Apache Camel or something like a queue system where we have queues and multiple processes working against those queues. That's going to be a lot of fun, and that's a topic that's very popular right now, so I think this is very timely. I look forward to seeing you then.